Welcome to Iraqi Dinar Hub. Today we're breaking down a big conversation that's been spreading throughout the dinar community. A number of detailed updates are claiming that something long talked about isn't being treated as a future possibility anymore, but as something that's already in motion. These reports suggest that the long countdown is over and that a real, active phase has begun. The main idea behind these claims is that everyday holders are now getting involved in a structured financial process. This shift is being described as a turning point, changing the discussion from someday to right now. For people who've followed this journey, the focus is on a group known as Tier 4B. In this space, that term usually refers to regular investors rather than government-level institutions or major financial players. These are people who picked up Iraqi dinar and often Vietnamese dong through normal retail sources. According to the current reports, this group is now part of the action. This supposed inclusion is being treated as a big shift, suggesting that access isn't limited to major insiders but is reaching everyday currency holders instead. These stories get even more specific when it comes to where all of this is said to be happening. Instead of being random or isolated moments, the accounts describe a coordinated operation across a bunch of large U.S. cities. Places like Dallas, Houston, Miami, and Reno are mentioned over and over, along with Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. According to the narrative, these cities were chosen intentionally because they have the financial infrastructure, security setups, and logistical resources needed to handle complex, high-volume transactions safely and smoothly. The actual process, as described, involves people showing up for scheduled appointments at special bank redemption centers. These aren't irregular walk-in bank branches, but more private, secure locations supposedly set up just for this. Once inside, investors are guided through a careful step-by-step procedure. The atmosphere is described like something out of a military operation of high precision, controlled processes, and strict oversight to make sure everything is done accurately and within regulations. This tightly managed environment is highlighted as one of the main features of the whole operation. Another major point in these accounts is the heavy emphasis on security and confidentiality. People are said to go through strict protocols, including rules about not using personal devices like cell phones to keep everything private. On top of that, signing a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA, is described as a required step. This document is meant to keep participants from talking about the details of what happened inside, including any rates or procedures. These rules are presented as necessary for protecting the overall process and the sensitive financial information involved. Before anything is finalized, participants reportedly go through a full verification check. This part includes presenting IDs and paperwork to prove who they are and that their currency came from legitimate sources. The currency is examined and matched against proper records to ensure everything is above board. This level of screening is portrayed as important to make sure that only approved individuals are part of the exchange and that the whole thing follows strict financial guidelines. This verification step is used to support the idea that the operation is official and tightly managed. The biggest claim in these stories has to do with the so-called contract rates being offered. These are described as special, privately arranged exchange rates that are completely different from what you'd see on the public Forex market. For years, the assumption has been that rates like these, if they even exist, would be reserved for governments or large financial institutions. But the current narrative says that these same high-level contract rates are now available to Tier 4B participants attending these appointments. This claim is presented as a major moment, flipping the long-standing belief that regular people would only get standard market rates. The reports insist that these contract rates are real, confirmed, and actively being given out at these centers. For many in the community, that idea has always been treated as wishful thinking, but these updates say it's happening in real time. What supposedly sets this apart from past rumors is the claim that people are getting instant digital confirmation, instead of leaving with empty promises or vouchers. Participants are described as walking out with their funds already showing up in their accounts. This immediate, visible confirmation is said to be the biggest proof that the process isn't theoretical, it's being carried out right now. The reports also go into the emotional side of the experience, saying that the feeling inside these centers is intense. Even people who went in skeptical are described as overwhelmed once their exchange is confirmed. Some accounts mention shaking hands, tears, and a sense of disbelief as the reality sinks in. This emotional reaction is contrasted with the strict, impersonal security measures around them, creating a moment where years of waiting supposedly turn into a life-changing financial shift. This human element is highlighted as a major part of the overall story. For context, these updates usually reference the tiered framework people in this community talk about. It puts government-level exchanges at Tier 1, then central banks and big institutions at Tier 2, and insiders or contractors at Tier 3. Tier 4B represents everyday investors. The importance of these reports comes from the claim that the process has now reached this final tier, meaning the broader public group is being processed now. Vietnam's dong shows up in these reports right alongside the dinar. The stories describe both currencies as part of the same movement, suggesting that this whole event isn't just tied to one economy but may be part of a larger financial adjustment. To support these claims, the reports often point to real-world economic reasons. For Iraq, they highlight stable oil production and major energy agreements with global companies. The idea is that Iraq's economy has strengthened enough that its currency shouldn't stay at an artificially low value. That economic shift is presented as the justification behind why revaluation would make sense now. A similar argument is made for Vietnam. The narrative points to Vietnam's huge growth in manufacturing and technology over the past 20 years. Along with major foreign investments, this rise is described as real economic value that isn't reflected in the dong's current market rate. As with Iraq, the story says the financial system is moving to correct the imbalance. These events are framed as extremely rare. Big currency revaluations that allegedly include regular people at special contract rates don't happen often. Historically, this kind of opportunity is said to be limited to major institutions, so the idea that Tier 4B is being included is presented as something unique and unprecedented. The role of the NDAs is also heavily discussed. They're portrayed as more than just paperwork. They're described as necessary tools for protecting the integrity of the operation. By keeping sensitive details like rates and locations confidential, the NDAs are said to help avoid market chaos and protect everyone involved. This level of legal oversight is used to further support the idea that the process is serious and professionally handled. The entire event is described as being extremely organized, with multiple major cities involved, strict screening, and tight controls. This setup is used to argue that what's happening isn't rumor-based but a coordinated financial event overseen by experienced professionals. The idea is that this level of planning wouldn't be possible unless serious entities were behind it. Another key point in these reports is the idea that the contract rates are only available for a short time. The claim is that this limited window encourages early participation, which helps control the flow of liquidity and maintain market stability as new values are introduced. It's described as a necessary part of keeping the overall rollout smooth and controlled. According to these accounts, the entire conversation around the dinar has shifted in a big way. The community's outlook is described as moving from uncertainty and doubt toward a sense of cautious confidence and action. Real-time confirmations and personal experiences are said to be driving this change. Instead of wondering whether it will ever happen, people are reportedly focusing on practical questions like scheduling appointments and preparing for the process. The reports also highlight the personal impact this could have on families. For people who've held on to these currencies for years despite skepticism, the supposed payouts are described as offering long-awaited financial relief and stability. These updates frame the moment as more than just financial, as something that could change lives. The reports claim that even with NDAs in place, the broader world is paying attention. The accounts say that enough information is getting out to show that something is happening, even if details are restricted. This level of controlled visibility is described as giving confidence to those still waiting their turn. A big theme running through all these reports is the idea that patience and preparation are finally paying off. The suggestion is that the people benefiting are those who stayed ready, kept their currency secure, and held on to their belief through years of uncertainty. Instead of being pushed aside, everyday investors are described as finally being included, verified, and rewarded. It's portrayed as validation for the entire Tier 4B community. These accounts describe the current moment as the execution phase of a long strategy that's been in the works for years. The claim is that everything needed economic improvements in Iraq and Vietnam, negotiations, contract setups has already been done. What's happening now in U.S. cities is presented as the final stage of that long-term plan. The idea is that people are only now seeing the results of years of behind-the-scenes preparation by major financial groups. Beyond individual gains, the reports talk about bigger global impacts. They claim that the controlled release of liquidity through this system is meant to help stabilize markets overall. By adjusting the currency values to match each country's real economic standing, both the local and international markets are said to benefit. The use of contract rates and limited windows is framed as a way to keep this shift balanced and organized. In the end, the reports describe a situation that has supposedly moved from rumor to reality. The story insists that the dinar revaluation is happening now. The new standard, according to these updates, involves secure appointments, verified contract rates, and immediate digital proof. These accounts say doubt is being replaced by confirmation, and years of hope are turning into actual results. For Tier 4B investors, the narrative portrays this as the moment they shift from waiting on the sidelines to taking part in a historic financial event.